Hi, this is Dave from Not So Ancient Chinese Secrets, and I'm here to share with you our not so secret recipe for making the best prime rib roast that you'll ever have. We've tried a lot of different methods. We've tried barbecuing in a smoker for pretty much a full day to get that beautiful smoky flavor into it. We've tried the slow and low at 200 degrees Fahrenheit in the oven, and that takes about 6 or 7 hours. And then what they call the sear in the rear. We sear it afterwards to get that beautiful crust on it. And then we've also tried what we're going to share with you today, which is our favorite method of cooking, which is going to be the sous vide method of cooking an entire beef roast. Now, what makes this so unique is the fact that it's just pretty much the easiest way. All of those methods that we've talked about, barbecuing in a smoker, in the oven, as well as sous vide, create a great beef roast. But the sous vide has several benefits that you can't get with the other methods. One of them is that it's just the easiest no-fuss method available. Instead of having to tend to coals and making sure your temperature is all right throughout the entire day in the barbecue, or even using up your oven for the entire day so that you can't use it for, grilling vegetables, popovers, or not mashed potatoes, but grilled potatoes. You can free up your oven, free up your barbecue, and just use the water bath to create the perfect roast beef. The other thing that we've noticed is that with sous vide, we don't have to worry about the time pressures of guests coming late and having, oh no, is my roast going to be ready? I always tend to wait for those last 10 degrees from 125 to 135, my finished temperature, and I always get really nervous because usually guests are starting to arrive and the last 10 degrees sometimes takes longer than I expect. And I really don't like that nervousness of having to wonder, oh no, is my beef gonna be ready? Am I gonna have everybody hungry and waiting for the meat to be served? So instead of that, with sous vide, we can keep it in a water bath and scientifically figure out the time it's going to take to get the core up to the temperature of our serving temperature of 135, and it can stay in that water bath even for an extra hour, 2 or 3 without any negative effects. There's a couple of things that you'll need to cook this way though. One is going to be, of course, your sous vide tool, and our tool of choice is the Dork Food DSV, and this we've been using for over a year now with great results. It's really robust. It's only about $100, so not expensive, and paired with a non-digital crock pot, you can cook for your average family no problem. And if you wanted to, you can also grow and cook for a huge group if you wanted to, in a cooler if you wanted as well. Besides your sous vide tool, you'll need a way to bag your meat, and we use the Food Saver vacuum sealers for that as well. And of course, you're gonna need just salt and pepper and wonderful beef. Now, one thing to note when you're cooking a prime rib roast is that the ribs actually require a different cooking time than the meat. Like all the meat cooks at 135 degrees Fahrenheit or around there. But the ribs really benefit from extra time in the sous vide bath. Why? Because it's got the extra collagen that you want to break down. And so while the rest of the meat can be cooked at 135 for about 9 to 10 hours, the ribs, if you give it some extra time, literally 2 or 3 days, so 72 hours in the water bath, you're going to benefit with some of the best ribs you'll ever have. So what we're going to do is cut off the ribs and cook them at different times. So we're going to have the ribs cooking for 3 days, and then we're going to cook the rest of the roast with just the meat for about 9 to 10 hours. The nice thing about cutting off the ribs is that you can save them for another meal, or you can leave as much meat as you want on that as well, or as little meat as you want on that. So right now, I am going to cut this with a very sharp knife. And with each rib, I prefer to cut them into each individual piece before we sous vide them, because at the searing stage, what we're going to do is we want to maximize the amount of Maillard reaction, the burn that we can get, so it has a great flavor to it. Rib, piece of cake. So 2 ribs, and we've got our wonderful roast here as well. After we've got that cut into pieces, we're going to now season our meat. The first thing we're going to do is coat it with a generous sprinkle of kosher salt. With your roast, you're going to be slicing it this way, and so each person only gets a little sliver of that crust that's going to be coated with salt. So you can be pretty generous and not worry about it, because it really doesn't soak in too much. And same with the ribs. We're just going to season them as well. And because each person is going to probably take a rib themselves, you don't want to over salt quite as much as you did the roast. Now that that's done, I'm going to take my garlic powder and dust these with some garlic powder. And Douglas Baldwin, who is pretty much the godfather of home sous vide cooking, recommends to use garlic powder instead of fresh garlic, because the fresh garlic has a weird metallic taste apparently if you use it in a sous vide bath. So I haven't experimented on my meat, but I trust the dude. He's a smart guy. Plus, it's simpler. After that, I'm going to add a sprinkling of thyme. I like my thyme. People say you can't buy thyme, but surely you can. Cut. And just because, I'm going to add some rosemary, because I like rosemary. I'm not going to add it to my ribs because it'll just burn with the surface area there. But I kind of like the flavor on my roast, so I'm going to add it to my roast here. And after that, we've got some dried chopped onions, but we can't find the powdered form of this, so we just run it through our beloved magic bullet. And the magic bullet that we have a dedicated blade just for spices and stuff, because we don't want to ruin it for getting onion and other spices flavored into our smoothies and stuff. And last but not least, some pepper here. Now that we've got our seasoning done, the last step for today is going to be bagging our meat. Roll down that edge, because you want to make sure that the top 3 inches or so is very clean without any of the spices or anything else in the way of making a good seal in the food saver, or else you're going to have a really sad day trying to eat sous vide meat that leaked out. Yeah. So first of all, let's get this in the bag. It's in the bag. I'm just going to seal that edge. And we've got our ribs going. And with this, we actually bought 3 roasts because roasts were on sale. The nice thing about it is that we can prep all of them in the same way. Excuse me. Now we've got 1 bag of ribs, 1 bag of roast. The ribs will take 3 days, so we're going to start that now in our sous vide, and the roast can wait in the fridge until the day that we're going to be eating it, which is in just a couple days. So with our slow cooker here, it's already up to temperature. We like to set ours to 135, and that's about medium rare. But one tip, you want to make sure that the water goes all the way around your sous vide materials. So what we do is get these cheap Chinese steamers that are waterproof. They don't rust, which is nice. And so I'll put one at the bottom, then I'll put in my ribs, and we'll let them take a little bath there. And on top of that, I also put an upside down steaming rack to make sure that they don't float up. Now there's going to be some evaporative loss over the next 3 days, so you want to make sure that it doesn't run out of water and expose your meat. So just check on that tomorrow as well and the next day, but it shouldn't be too big a deal. And we are now cooking our ribs. Then on the day that you want to cook your roast, we just add that to the sous vide machine, and we leave that in for about 9 or 10 hours. And here's the tip. You go, Dave, how long do I need to cook my meat? One very useful app that I highly recommend is checking out the iPhone iOS app from Polyscience, and it's called the Sous Vide toolbox. And what that will let you do is enter all your different parameters. Is it chicken? Is it eggs? Is it beef? What shape is it? How thick is it? And do you want to pasteurize it or just heat it to the center? And then it calculates the actual cook time for you. And so that's going to be the safest way to do it, and so check that out. But for now, we're going to let that sit for 3 days and we'll be back to show you the results.
Now that's dancing.